Time now to spotlight the latest state moves with regard to a strategic crypto reserve. New Hampshire becoming the first state to announce this. Joining us now for insight, we've got John Roy, Managing Director of Water Tower Research. John, thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't we talk about this move with regard to New Hampshire, first state to legally approve a strategic crypto reserve. How should we interpret this?
Well, it's the first one. I mean, a number have been looking at it. I mean, Texas has been looking at it. In addition, you have Arizona had looked at it. That was somewhat rejected by the governor there. You have a number, Utah. So a number of them are looking at it. I think the logic is the states go first and then the feds. We really need the U.S. federal government to do something to clarify everything. But it is definitely a positive move for Bitcoin to have a state actually take the legal step to doing that. And it gives it somewhat of a thumbs up. I think the concern is it like cannabis, where the states all did it first, hoping that the feds would follow, and we really haven't seen that. So that's kind of the puts and takes.
That's a good point, because we know some other states, for instance, like Arizona and Florida, have hit roadblocks. What was this about New Hampshire that pushed it across the finish line that you noticed?
I think that they have some clarity around the safety that's needed, how they are actually going to use it. This is not necessarily new to the community. It's new at the state regulatory level. But the community has known how to safeguard Bitcoin for quite a while. The real step there is actually getting the legislation done and signed.
And then do you think that in terms of the precedent it sets for other states, do you think this can create some kind of domino effect?
Well, I think it could create the states doing it, right? You look at, like you said, Texas, Pennsylvania, Ohio, North Dakota, a number of them are looking at it. It could create a domino, but you really need the domino to push over the U.S. federal government. That's the one that really would create clarity. It would create a lack of uncertainty. It's the uncertainty that's essentially got it in somewhat of a holding place right now. Bitcoin does tend to move with stocks somewhat. You saw a big move yesterday, similarly. But there are some positives as these states roll in. If they actually do sign it and do legislation, it could be seen as a continuing positive.
Okay, so New Hampshire's law, as I'm reading into this, it includes some strict custody rules like U.S. regulated multi-sig wallets and qualified custodians. Does that set the framework for, like, would that be, do you see that as being unique to New Hampshire, or could that be the potential framework for something at the federal level?
I think it could be a framework. Essentially, you've got the state saying what the community has been doing for a while, safety and the multi-currency wallets and the multi-ownership, et cetera, has been something that they have been doing for a while. So it's saying, yep, this is good enough for a state to actually hold it in reserve and to actually make a move to start buying it. I don't think that New Hampshire buying it is going to put a whole lot of upward pressure on the stock itself. It's the implications if the other states do it, and then if the feds follow.
So if the other states do it, when you think about, because I like the parallels you drew that, you know, maybe they're trying to follow like the cannabis model here. And when you think about, though, the real inflection point may need to be something at the federal level. Do you think that there could be parallel tracks where there is something occurring on the federal level, or that it's a push from this, you know, potentially domino effect of states doing crypto reserves?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if the feds were to really do something, I think the states wouldn't need to at that point. To a certain extent, they would just adopt what the feds have, right? So I think as the states do it, the feds get a little more pressure. Each incremental domino would create more. When it gets stalled, Arizona, Florida, those sort of situation, you see the pressure come off. You would have to say that eventually you think something is going to happen, but then again, we thought that about cannabis, and look where we are now.
Okay. And then, John, I'm curious to know then on the federal level, what would you hope to hear from the Trump administration on this front, especially when you think about the guardrails? Because I've heard so much from the crypto community is calling for, you know, things on the federal level to occur, more and more regulatory clarity, and that we want guardrails. Actually, we don't want to just fly willy-nilly. What are you hoping to hear?
I'm hoping to hear which agency is responsible for what, which things are securities and which are not. I think clarity either way, just make up your mind basically as to what it is. And once you have those guardrails, everybody can follow them. Everybody can invest in that way and everybody can know what's going on. So I think what you really need is to get some agencies being tasked by Congress and say, okay, you're doing this, and you're doing that. Good, go. I think that's the first major step.
And does this move with regard to New Hampshire create more bullish sentiment around Bitcoin and around crypto? We've seen Bitcoin reclaim that 100,000 level, or is that, kind of just separate and apart?
To a certain extent, there is an element of that, sure. I don't think it's super significant. I think the move the other day was more along the lines of, just people getting more bullish about economy in general. I do think that if you start getting a couple more states going, it could be a bullish signal.
Okay. And John, any final thoughts you want to leave us with anything we're missing on this front when it comes to how we should read through this news about this state level crypto reserve?
Well, I think the other thing that you might be missing is that a lot of these things that the state is saying are safe and good are things that have been in the community for a while. It's not new developments. It's just putting its stamp of approval on it. And that's a very good thing in general.
All right. John Roy, Managing Director of Water Tower Research. Our thanks to John for insight on the state of crypto, especially as it pertains to the guardrails around it.